Okay. Merry Christmas. Yes, this is the first of two videos today on Christmas. We're talking about Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh. Before I get into the actual review of the movie, a little backstory on this show. It is a TV film that is a continuation of the of Drake and Josh. Drake and Josh was a Nickelodeon sitcom that aired on Nickelodeon from 2004 to 2007. It is one of the few shows that my brother and I would actually sit and watch together. We didn't particularly get along, as most brothers do. We had each other's throats. Plus, there's an 11 years difference between us, so there wasn't really much of a big connection. But this was one of the shows we would sit and watch together. There's a few. He loves SpongeBob, but this was one of the few shows we would watch together. In fact, I remember watching the first episode with him. But yeah, Drake and Josh, the essential story is Drake Parker and Josh Nichols are stepbrothers brought together when their parents, Drake's mom, Josh's dad, get married. They also have Drake's little sister, Megan, who causes problems for them. And you could say this is sort of a version of Kenan and Kel, if it's, like a 2000s version of Kenan and Kel with an all-white cast instead of a primarily black cast that show had. Yeah, because Chris was the only real white main character on the show, so. Yes, and as the show went on, you could say it did sort of get Kenan and Kel-ish, as Josh with them having a job that they would incorporate into the show starting in season 2. So it did sort of, and Dan Schneider was connected to both shows, so there is that kind of connection. But, so yeah, Drake and Josh, they go to high school, and there are certain characters they interact with. Season 1 was just sort of sitcom-y stuff. In season 2, they start to actually world build a little bit, bringing in the Premiere Theater and other characters that exist within the world. You have like Craig and Eric, who I think were in season 1, but not as much. They were going to push forward more from season 2 on. You had Mindy Crenshaw, who was sort of an enemy of Drake's in one episode, and when she came back, she became Josh's girlfriend, which that was a twist in itself. And then once you got to theater, you had recurring characters like Helen Dubois, the manager of the theater, played by Yvette Nicole Brown, Crazy Steve, played by Jerry Trainer, who would also go on with Miranda Cosgrove, who played Megan to iCarly, Jake Farrell, who plays Gavin, who is also like a writer and producer on some of these shows, and Leah, who I don't know the actress's name, but she would pop up from here and then. She wasn't a major recurring character. But also there's Mrs. Hafer. I mentioned her because she's in this movie for like a second, and I forgot she was in this. She's a recurring teacher, and she hates Drake. And she's a big part of that episode where Mindy tries to get revenge, tries to go after Drake. But things change, I guess. And there are two main threads throughout the series. There is Drake wants to be a famous musician, and Josh, at least from when he starts at the movie theater, wants to be assistant manager with the gold vest. So the finale was Really Big Shrimp. I'm not going to get into certain things, but they do get those things. And I remember watching it for the first time going, this feels like they're wrapping story threads up. Drake gets a record contract. Josh gets the gold vest. And finally gets back together with Mindy, because they break up at some point during season 4 for some reason. And the big transformation story in this is Josh Peck going from fat kid to skinny adult like it looks now. It's a transition you can watch through the seasons, because like first 2 seasons he's fat, and then in season 3 he's a little bit thinner, and then by season 4 he's just really thin, which is good for him. I wish I could lose weight like him. But yes, and so Really Big Shrimp ended the series as the series finale. But then Nickelodeon made the decision of airing 2 episodes after that. One was Helicopter, which didn't really have a good reason as to why it was aired, but the other one was Dance Contest, which was aired later because they were doing a dance-themed episode block, and iCarly's dance episode was going to be on there, and iCarly had yet to air when Drake and Josh ended, so they wanted to put them on there together. But a year later, in 2008, we got Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh, and now I can finally talk about this movie after about 5 minutes of talking about the show. Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh was a Christmas special movie that aired in 2008, Christmas 2008, and told the story of Drake and Josh being forced to help a foster family have the best Christmas ever. By forced, we'll get to it when I get to the story. The story here is that Drake and Josh, it's Christmas time. Their parents are going on a vacation somewhere else because they didn't have any else thing for them to do, so they wrote a side plot where they go on vacation, have the worst vacation ever, which you could take all their side plot vacation, just write them out saying they're on vacation, and not have them in that special, and it would have made more sense, but anyway, Drake is filling in as the mall Santa Claus, and let me pause here for a second. So, in this special, after the show has already ended, mind you, we find out that the Premiere Theater is not just a movie theater, but it's part of an entire mall. And for the first time ever, because this movie probably has a bigger budget, we see the mall. And I remember being very confused watching it. Like, wait, where'd the mall come from? Because at this point, we had only seen just the theater. I thought it was just the theater. And then Drake says that Helen is allowing him to have a party on the roof to celebrate her divorce. By the way, Helen got married in the series finale, and now she's getting divorced, so they ruined that plot line. I don't know why they had to write that in, but Helen's getting divorced, so yeah, I don't know. But so Drake says they can have. Helen said they could have a party on the roof of the premiere. If the theater is not by itself and it's part of a mall, Helen does not have the jurisdiction to grant them access to the roof. So that kind of, But they do have the party on the roof, but these hooligans come in and start trashing the place. So Josh, being of a sound mind, at least you would assume, calls the cops. The cops come in and start arresting him and other people who are on the roof. And Helen, instead of trying to explain, just yells, "Cops!" and runs away. Why not? See, a lot of stuff could be prevented, in this movie could be prevented, if they just went to the cops and explained. If they explained here what happened, hey, she is the owner of the theater and she said we could have the party up here. Those were the hooligans trashing stuff. You probably should have just dealt with them yourself, Josh, instead of calling the cops. Helen, have Helen deal with it, I don't know. But, no, the cops come in, Josh gets handcuffed, and he gets knocked on the roof into a truck and gets arrested. Eventually, and taken to jail for trying to, I don't know. He has a cellmate named Bludge, played by the late Kimbo Slice. May he rest in peace. He's dead, right? I swear he passed away. But, yes, and Bludge is not a bad person. He just has what do you call that? There's an image to protect. So he pretends to beat up Josh. I know someone named Josh I'd like to beat up. I have Kimbo Slice beat up. I would do that. But anyway, not like kill or anything. Just beat him up. Throw him around. Rough him up. No serious damage. Just rough him up. Get it through his head that he can't leave your dust piles in the middle of the walkway. Okay? Done. I'm a janitor. Enough janitor gripe. So, while Drake was the Christmas Santa, he was making out with chicks, because of course he is. And then, sorry, something popped up. So, and then, He was on the run from a fat chick because we're going to fat shame people, I guess. I wonder how Josh Peck felt about that. But he's running from her, and he runs into Mary Alice, who is our little girl in this. Little girl character played by Bailey Madison, who will go on to be in The Strangers Pray at Night and have a better performance in that, I think, than here. The one thing that bugs me so much, it's the same reason why I can't stand Dakota Fanning, at least when she was that young. I hate it when people smile with their mouth open. I hate it. I don't mind if you go like that, but when you go, it looks creepy. You look creepy, and she does it so much. It's like, no, stop it. You look creepy. Same thing with Dakota Fanning. When she was that young, she would smile with her mouth open. All of a sudden, didn't. Most of the time, she was missing some teeth. But it just... kids lose their teeth. It happens. But it just... it's creepy. It's creepy. But she tells him she wants her family, her foster family, to have the best Christmas ever. And because he's in a rush, he goes, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And then he runs off. And later gets told he has to do it, so he decides he's going to break Josh out of prison, because that's a smart thing to do. And with help from Bludge, he gets him out, only to then be arrested himself. They get taken to court, where Judge Arthur Fonzarelli, yes, it is Henry Winkler, tells them that they've, lays down the law on what they did. And then Helen comes in as the lawyer, because there was a thing earlier where Drake tried to hire a lawyer, but it wasn't a real lawyer, and he scammed him for money. And yeah, because we really needed that to be in there. There's jokes in this you could have taken out, and it wouldn't have made a difference. Like, there's some we'll get to, but like, it just doesn't. I don't know. And there's also common sense. There's lacking of common sense in this movie that just baffles me. So they Helen comes in and tells the judge about Mary Alice, and tells him that you can't break a Christmas promise. Drake made a Christmas promise to this little girl, you can't break it, and so, So the judge says, because they have no prior breakings of the law on the record, which is bullshit, because I know for a fact that they used fake IDs, and they've at least used fake IDs, and what else is there? Fake IDs. There was Josh got 2 driving tickets, and there's a couple other things that they've done where they've run into the law. So I don't think this whole you don't have anything, you haven't broken the law on your record. I don't know what that is, but he decides he's going to be lenient and let them go if they give this family the best Christmas ever. They get brought in by Officer Perry, who is not Rob Corddry, although I thought he was at first when I first watched this. But he tells them he's going to put these bracelets on their legs, and he says that by the time Christmas comes, he's going to ask Mary Alice and her family, if they had the best Christmas ever. If they say no, they're going to go to jail for life, even though I don't think anything that they've done represents them going to jail for life. Even him breaking in isn't a life sentence. Years maybe, but... And there's a caveat: they can't tell the kids, or they'll garner sympathy. And this right here is, I think, where his master plan comes in. We don't know. Perry J. Gilbert, that's the Officer Perry here, hates Christmas. We find it out later. And I think from the get-go, he's trying to ruin it. I don't think the judge ever said anything about... I think he made this up. I don't think the judge ever indicated at all that he couldn't tell them. I think he did it, because it comes back later. I think he did it so that he could ruin it later in some way, shape, or form. I think if they came in and they said, look, I made you a Christmas promise, and because Drake always intended to keep the Christmas promise, then they never go back to that. That's the reason he broke. Okay, so my brother accidentally got put in jail for something he didn't do. I went to rescue him so we could keep the Christmas promise that I promised her. And now we're faced with life in jail if we don't do this. And we're not trying to sway you, but we really want this to work. Because we're not bad people. They're not. They've had problems. We're not bad people. But we really want to help. If they had been able to sit down and talk with these children and explain to them, it probably would have went smoother. So that's one, why he told them they couldn't do it. Because if they sat and explained everything, they would understand more. But that, I don't think it would be like garnering, favoritism or anything. Just, I don't know. But the stuff that Officer Perry does just doesn't work for me. Like, so they get there after some shenanigans with a stupid ass GPS tracker thing that Drake got for $6 online. Just use your freaking phones. This was 2008. There was Android phones. You could use the GPS on there. But they get there and they're introduced to the kids, and it's really weird because they go to the commercial at some point, but they're introduced to the kids. They say their dad is at work, and then they go to commercial. They come back, and Josh is still talking with the kids, and Drake's outside with the dad, who's getting ready to leave. Huh? He was at work, and then he came back during the commercial, and then he's gonna leave again. Why? And then when all hell breaks loose in the house, Drake and Josh just leave. And at first, I'm like, I remember this. Why are they walking? Don't they have a car? Drake's car is still there, but then I remember they were walking to the car. And then they're jumped by these guys Officer Perry paid to take their clothes off. Because first of all, they get a ticket for reckless driving, which that's the only legitimate ticket that they actually deserve to get is the reckless driving because of the thing. But $900 or $400, I don't know if that much, maybe $100. 200, but and then they're attacked by these guys and all their clothes are taken off. Officer Perry shows up and gives them a ticket for public nudity and then has their collar torn away because it's blue. This is where I go home, get some clothes on, and then find a way to go to the police station and tell his superior officer what he's doing. But no, because we have to have these shenanigans throughout the film, They don't do it. And it always kind of annoys me. It's like, why don't you do something? Why don't you tell his superior officers what he's doing? No, they allow everything that happens to them, Officer Perry wise, they let happen to them because they don't report it. And so when they introduce to the kids, one of them is foreign. His name is Sigfie. He doesn't speak English, and I don't know what language he's trying to speak. Fleep, Ilaquistif. But Yartut. He said Yartut. So they go to get a Christmas tree. It doesn't work out because Sigfie climbs up the tree. Josh tries to get him back, and then Sigfie's back on the ground again. And they just can't get the tree, so Josh gets a lawn chair and puts Christmas lights on it. I don't know where I don't know. They decide to, so they're sick of being hassled on by Officer Perry. So instead of going to the cops, they go to Megan because we have to justify Miranda Cosgrove being in this movie. So they go to her and they promise her a Smith Royal oboe, which I don't know is a real thing or not, but they go to promise her that. It's Trevor's, who name drop a character that appeared once and then is mentioned several other times because he was played by Taron Gilliam and then he went on Saturday Night Live and couldn't come back. And yeah, maybe it's before, I don't know, but yeah, so she tells them that the things on their ankles are GPS trackers and she removes them and then messes with Perry, throwing it around, annoying him, which I don't understand why he doesn't figure it out, but as they take the kids out to do the Christmas trees. And then she finds out that they're not. There is not. They don't have a Smithboro oboe from Trevor, because Trevor called and she asked him about it and he has no idea what he's talking about because his grandfather was a janitor. So she puts the tracking devices back in. And from this moment in the film, it really is on Drake and Josh, the stuff that happened to them, Perry-wise, because all they needed to do was take the trackers back out. You know he's tracking you. So why don't you just reach down, take it back out? Maybe there's some kind of thing, tamper-proof thing, or an alarm that'll go off, but Megan did it just fine. You know? I don't know, but yeah. So they go to Perry's mom and ask what happened. Apparently when he was a little kid, he wanted a monkey for Christmas, and he got a chimpanzee, which is an ape, not a monkey, but, you know, tomato, I guess. And the chimpanzee was not nice, and he attacked Perry and then peed on him and then ran off, which made Perry hate Christmas, apparently. So now he's ruining Christmas for Drake and Josh and little kids because he hates Christmas. Look, I understand going after Drake and Josh. Okay, fine. Little kids, come in. So let me get to the ultimate middle finger to Perry. So they, first of all, they go out and they start singing Christmas carols. They sing the 12 Days of Christmas. It's not working because everybody shuts the door after the first day. So then they get this whole setup where they have guitars, which I don't understand why Drake didn't have his guitar because he was practicing with the guitar. But they go out there, he's got his guitar, and they're singing and everything. They even get the older brother to get in there and sing with them. And then after the song's over, Perry shows up and he gives them a ticket for public, what was it? A noise thing. Noise violation or something. I don't know. But there are a bunch of people standing around watching this. So why doesn't anyone get in there to defend them? Like, oh, hey, we're not offended by this. You have to give them a ticket. We like this. No one does anything. And then they decide they're going to perform this at the parade. A parade which we never see. And you can see there's a lot of back production stuff behind everything. They put a lot into this little parade area for it to not happen. Because they get in there and they're on the float getting ready to go. And Perry shows up. And he goes up to Crazy Steve, who arrives in a DeLorean with the worst ripoff of the Back to the Future music ever. He shows up in a DeLorean, and he convinces, he goes, hey, you're friends with Rick and Josh, right? You need to go remind them that if they don't give that family the best Christmas ever, they're going to go to jail. Now, I'm assuming that Crazy Steve already knows about this. He was at the court hearing with some very unfunny stuff going on between him and Henry Winkler. Crazy Steve, the cow goes moo. Oh, okay, sure. But yeah, so he goes out, and this is the part I always mute because it's so stupid. He goes up there and starts yelling about how they have to, do it. And instead of, when this is revealed, instead of explaining, like I said earlier, they just like, well, we want to do this, and then they just kind of whine a little bit, and they leave, and there's no parade. And so they finally had enough of Perry, so they go to the superior officer, right? No, they buy him a monkey, or chimpanzee. And that changes his heart, apparently. It's a nice monkey, has a certificate of niceness, apparently. And apparently we can just take the word off a piece of paper, I guess. That works, I guess. I don't know. But, yeah. And, so Drake and Josh decide they're still going to try to give them the best Christmas ever, even though they know that they're going to go to jail. So they decide they're going to take Crazy Steve's wood chipper, Sally, which was sort of a side plot because he keeps mentioning Sally, And he shows it to him later, and it's a wood chipper. And they're going to put ice in the wood chipper and create snow, which in theory should work, but it doesn't. And I feel like the kid's house being destroyed is also on them, because they tell the older brother, because the older brother comes out and goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "We're going to put ice in this thing and we're going to make snow." He's like, "You think snow is going to change our minds? It'll stop you from going to jail?" They're like, "We don't care if we go to jail. We just want to do this." The older brother should be smart enough to say, "Hey, that's not going to work. It's just going to be ice chips going everywhere." But no, he says nothing, and instead the house gets destroyed. So, also, I want to point out that aside from that one scene, we don't see either of the parents. The guy mentions he's married, but we never see the wife, and we only see him in that one scene where he was coming home from work to leave again, apparently. I don't know. But yeah, they destroy the house and they both get knocked out. When they wake up, they're in their beds with Perry and the monkey, the chimpanzee, excuse me. And he makes it sound like he really appreciates them giving him the monkey, or the chimpanzee. They keep saying monkey, so I'm going to say monkey, okay? Giving him the monkey. But he says that he talked to Mary Alice and her family and makes it like they're going to go to jail. They even do this thing. And when you know what comes after this, the whole scene where they're trying to stall from leaving, he's trying to escape, it just comes up like, come on, I know where it's going, you don't need to do this. They get downstairs and surprise, everyone is there. Helen, Gavin, the kids, Megan, they're all there. And what are you guys doing here? And Helen's like, well, I heard that you guys got hurt, and I wanted to see if Jake was okay. Gavin goes, I came for the cookies. And everyone else, and then Megan's like, I live here. But they're there to help them celebrate Christmas. So they asked the question, was this the best Christmas ever? And everyone apparently says yes. Because apparently they had a good Christmas. Even Siegfried, who says his first American word, which is yes. And then they're like, yes. Says something else. And he says, Merry Christmas. And they start singing, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And then something starts to shake in the fireplace. A pair of legs come down, and like Santa Claus. And we got Trey, who mentioned earlier in dialogue I didn't want to talk about, where he rambles forever in this. You could say, well, look at you. But about how Santa Claus is too fat to fit down the chimney. So they see, I told you, he is too big to fit down the chimney. And turns out to be Bludge, who apparently Josh wrote. They allow pen pals in prison. I know like family members and stuff can do that, but former cellmates, maybe. I mean, Ant-Man had some kind of correspondence, I guess, with his cellmate, Luis. I would love Luis to recap this. Okay, so there's these two brothers, right? They're never like brothers, you know what I mean? They're like stepbrothers, you know what I'm saying? And they're dressed like Santa Claus in his sack, right? And they promised this little girl get best Christmas ever, right? And this party on the roof, you know what I'm saying? Well, it would be, you know. But anyway, so Bludge is there to give Christmas gifts, including a Smith Royal oboe for Megan. We don't see any of the other gifts. And then he gets Helen. Her plot was finished, I guess. And then there's a ding dong on the doorbell, and it's Mindy, who I think actually Mindy comes in before. Maybe, I don't know. But she comes in, and she's there for Josh. Yeah, Mindy was in this at the beginning and then at the end. Just like the parents. They kind of bookend everything. Then they notice it's snowing outside. And so they all go outside to find Crazy Steve and Sally, the wood chipper, with snow coming out of it. It's actually cheese. I don't know if you know this, but I love cheese. It's cheese. But there's one problem. They're going to have to get that all cleaned up because it's going to stink. They can't just leave it outside. It's California weather. It's gonna stink. And it's snowing cheese, apparently, and the parents come back, because we got around and stuff, everyone being together on Christmas with snow and stuff. It is an inventive way, but I don't know. But yes, and then we end with the Christmas song, and yeah, the end. This is a fun watch. There's a lot of gaps in logic in this, but if you could take your brain out and just enjoy it for what it is, I mean, it embodies stuff from the show. It's a little bit stupid, dumber than the show, but like common sense would be to talk to Perry's superior officer and say, hey, he's really not allowing us to do this. He keeps interfering. He's using these bracelets on us to track us and ruin everything we try to do. But they don't, because we gotta have shenanigans. So, you know, this is fine. Albeit a little dumb, but I like watching every once in a while for Christmas. So, what are your thoughts on Merry Christmas, Milk, Jake, and Josh? Leave them in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.